What if the inventions we create are not just tools, but become godlike, that lifts us up and saves us? Or a monster that pulls us down into our own pathologies? This is the question we face when we think about technological progress and its impact on our lives. In this video, I'm gonna talk about life's drive, entropy, what is pain, what is suffering, how individual pathologies turn into culture, and how we can find inner peace. Let me tell you about two main views that try to shape our future. The accelerationists want technology to advance as fast as possible. They believe this is the best for all humanity. They envision a future where we become transhuman, even immortal, whether through biology or digital means. The opposing view sees progress as a race towards collective collapse. Those people believe we are blindly creating something we cannot control. And therefore, they think it is better to slow down progress, and some even want to stop it completely. My position is different. I see myself as an observer, a witness, because no matter which path is taken, what really matters is how we adapt to these new conditions. Conditions we already feel and that will soon grow even stronger. We can still question whether humanity can actually stop technological progress, but history shows that it cannot. Even if governments or corporations try to slow down AI, others will rush ahead to gain an advantage. The rate of progress is not something we collectively plan for. It's driven by competition between nations and corporations. We call this capitalism. But what are nations and companies made of? They are made of individuals, and people are driven by salary, by ambition. They wish to be respected, to leave a mark, to be well seen by family, friends, and colleagues. So this human drive to conquer and create something bigger than ourselves pushes progress forward and increases consumption. It's not only about money or status, as this is a collateral effect, I believe. It comes from our very human nature, and all forms of life share a similar version of this property. Every living being consumes more and more energy as it evolves, and humans are no different. Whenever we have extra money or resources, we use them to consume more energy, so we can innovate, we can improve, to proceed on being actively alive. So most of us can just stop and be less ambitious, let's say. Complex forms of life get restless, and boredom causes suffering, and I believe that variations of this pattern exist from the simplest bacteria to our modern civilization. Because life always tries to organize itself against entropy. I see entropy, I consider it as kind of like an ultimate being that we can still perceive in this human form. Not necessarily God, but it is the foundation of everything we perceive. Of course, this is not maybe a scientific point of view, just an indulgence. But a part of this personal perspective is that what we can apprehend is that everything that comes to our perception is impermanent. But the only permanent thing is impermanence itself. Entropy is that ultimate permanence, considering this meta perspective. This is to say that to resist entropy, life needs to consume more and more energy, be it food, breathing air, or even sunbathing. But we might ask, what does this has to do with technology becoming God or a demon? You see, the flow of energy through us and through everything else, really, is what causes decay. In our case, it's aging and pain. And this flow is what we call to be alive. We need more and more energy consumption to be alive. But the irony is that we decay with the passage of energy. Therefore, life and pain go hand in hand. Life is pain. Of course, there are pleasant moments. It's not only pain. There is well-being. What I mean is that life is a struggle. Pain is inevitable. The more energy we consume, the more crises we create. Yes, of course, we cure diseases, but we also bring pollution, which leads to climate change, which in turn leads to social inequality. In other words, somewhere, sometime there is a price to pay to entropy. Even if we are not directly affected by dramatic changes in society, some will suffer with this indirectly, because there is often an excessive identification with negative aspects of the world, resulting in psychological exhaustion that might lead to anxiety and depression, meaning it's a breakdown in inner peace. With that being said, the main distinction I make between pain and suffering is that pain is natural. Pain is life's warning system telling us that something might need to change. It drives evolution and growth. Life is struggle. We must accept pain, but of course not seek it unnecessarily, as this would be pathological. So this leads to the difference with suffering. Suffering is optional. Suffering is the pain we add on top of natural pain. It comes from resisting reality, denying our limits, or believing we can escape life's struggle. If we don't see this difference, we risk building technology that mirrors our flaws or pathologies, and thus becoming ingrained in culture. And when this culture with pathologies is embedded into AI, it may create a demon that amplifies those pathologies even more. When we resist reality, we fall into behaviors that can turn pathological and further ahead become normalized as culture, in the form of escapism, or in the form of compulsive consumerism, or the obsessive chase for validation, for example in social media. When repeated for long enough, these behaviors become tradition and a lifestyle, even if self-destructive. We often don't notice this because we live in cultural hypnosis. And we might ask, why does nature allow pathological deviations? I believe that in the case of humans, I would say that it is because we are the highest apex predator, and we have no other animal challenger to remove us from the top of the food chain. So our conflicts come from within, from our own psyche. And when self-destructive behavior spreads, magnified by technology, it can reach critical mass and shape all of civilization. This is how an AI demon could emerge. But the question remains, are we creating a god that saves us, or a monster that multiplies our flaws and pathologies? If we are nature, then everything we create is also nature, and we are nature indeed, because the word artificial is just a way to separate ourselves from what we can't define. This makes it easier for us to identify ourselves through contrast or by contrast. The real danger is AI reflecting and amplifying our pathologies, because vices spread easily, because they feel good and release dopamine. When life is easy and pleasures are endless, facilitated by technology, it is more likely for unhealthy behaviors to grow. Think of a future where AI creates perfect and totally immersive virtual reality paradises. Those might blend seamlessly into our daily lives. But if we neglect our physical bodies, we risk losing balance. So the choice is not whether to stop or to speed up technology, as this may be beyond our free will. The choice is how we deal with the pain that comes with humanity's growth process. Pain is like a guiding compass. When we feel pain, it means that something might need to be changed, but I'm not referring necessarily external change. The change must be within, aiming at inner peace. On the other hand, if we turn pain into suffering, we feed negative cycles and repeat self-destructive patterns. Civilizations collapse this way. History shows it happens again and again, and it will happen again eventually. It is cyclical. But here's the main takeaway. We must always remain optimistic. Drawing on the idea of Albert Camus' absurdism, we must maintain hope, because the most important thing is, after all, inner peace. Never be pessimistic, never a doomer. This is true even if it seems absurd that technological innovations aimed at addressing issues like pollution ironically increases consumption of resources and energy. Even if entropy asks for a price, we must face challenges with hope. And this idea is not new. This is also a central topic in Buddhism. If we stay optimistic, we will create positive worlds inside of us. I'm not necessarily referring to the outside world. Outside might be a complete mess. But if we stay optimistic, even in AI-driven realities, we harbor a more sustainable well-being. But if we stay pessimistic, AI will reflect our pathologies, making the natural pain of life worse. Hence, this is suffering. Finding inner peace means valuing life. Inner peace may lead to outer peace. We don't know for sure, but the main struggle is always within. Even if the world remains dualistic to our understanding and perception, optimism keeps us moving forward. And this is the essence of life. Preserve life, reduce suffering, avoid self-destruction. Be optimistic, especially because AI might learn from us. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, hit the bell, share your thoughts in the comments. Goodbye, until next time.